With this tutorial, I'm going to talk about the pen tool and the curvature tool. Both of these tools drop anchor points. So first we have to talk about what is an anchor point. And I'm going to illustrate what they are by drawing a couple of objects. The first one will just be a rectangle. And then the second one I want to draw is just a path or a line. All right, if you click on any of the objects, you're going to notice that they are made up of little points at corners, at endpoints, and then creating curves. And those are called anchor points. So anytime you see these boxes or hover above them, it's an anchor point. And on this path, you see them throughout different curves and then at both the beginning and the end of my path. So every object will be made of anchor points. And with these two objects that I drew, Illustrator pretty much dropped those anchor points. It put it at the corners of the rectangles, and it put it at the start and the end of my path, and then it created those curves to replicate where my mouse movement went. With the pen tool, you drop those anchor points and you tell Illustrator whether you want it to create a corner or if you want it to create a curve. Okay, I like to think of it as like a dot-to-dot tool. So you just click to drop anchor points, and Illustrator is going to preview the connection between those anchor points. So I started with that one anchor point, and now wherever I go, it's previewing a line segment that will go between the two anchor points. And as soon as I click, it'll draw that line. And it stays a continuous mark until you move off of this tool or until you enclose a shape. So if I wanted this to say a zigzag line, I can just come click off my pen tool and I have a zigzag line. I can also draw a shape. And to make Illustrator know that it's an enclosed area, you have to go back to the beginning anchor point. And notice how in my icon now, I not only have a picture of the pen, but I also have a little tiny circle. That circle is telling me that Illustrator is going to count that as a shape, an enclosed area. So as soon as I click, I turn it into a shape. Both of these objects have straight lines, they have corners, but you're not limited to straight lines or corners with the pen tool. So let me show you now how to draw a curved line or a curved shape. All right, again, you start like you did before. You're just going to click to start an anchor point, and then instead of just clicking for the next anchor point, you can click, hold, and pull out something we call handlebars. And these handlebars are creating that curve. You can stretch it longer to increase that arc. You can rotate it to change the direction of the arc. And then as soon as you let go of the handlebar, then it will go on with the next path and anchor point, or the continuation of that path and anchor point. So click, pull out handlebars, click, pull out handlebars that you can manipulate. And again, if you just wanted a curved line, you can click off of the pen tool and you have waves. You can also create a curving shape by going back to the beginning. Hidden underneath the pen tool, you have some options as far as dealing with anchor points. So let's go over those. You can add anchor points. So if I know that I want to add maybe another peak right here, I can add 3 anchor points, and then I can come manipulate one of those anchor points. We'll talk about this tool here in a second. I can also delete anchor points. So all I have to do is use the delete anchor point tool and click right on an anchor point and it will delete it. And then lastly, you have an anchor point tool, and this one allows you to change that anchor point to a curve or to a corner. So to do a curve, you're going to click on the anchor point and pull out handlebars. To change something to a corner, you can just click and it goes to a corner anchor point. The tool that I used earlier, this is called the direct selection tool, and this allows you to manipulate anchor points. So as a review, your selection tool deals with the entire object. So when you click on something, it's picking up all the anchor points associated with that object. So when you move it, it moves all the anchor points. When you rotate it, it moves everything. When you resize it, it moves everything. So this does the entire object. The direct select, or I also call it the open arrow, this allows you to pick anchor points and manipulate those. So I just clicked on this one, and I know it's clicked and selected because this is blue and the other anchor points are white on the inside. So this one's selected, and now I can move it. I can also come up and use some options on my option bar and create a curved anchor point, or I can delete it, or I can also take that selected anchor point, which is now this one, and make a cut on it. So while you're on the direct selection tool, you have some options as far as what you can do to manipulate the different anchor points. All right, next to your pen tool, you have the curvature tool, and this one, its default is to be a curve anchor point. So the default for your pen tool is to have corners, straight lines and corners. The default for the curvature tool is to have anchor points that are curved. So if you know that you're going to do a curved line, you might prefer to use this tool over the regular pen. Again, you just drop anchor points, so click there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. Now, for my third one, notice that this is when I get the preview. That it's showing me wherever my location is, Illustrator is creating the smoothest curve it can possibly do. And I'm going to do another one. And again, notice how the preview, it's changing what's already been drawn to try to make the smoothest flowing line it can, depending on where your location is. Again, if you want this to stop, you just click off of the curvature tool. And again, I have a wavy line. But this time I didn't have to go pull out handlebars. Illustrator did those for me. Curvature tool also makes shapes. Click off that actually. You just have to go back to the beginning anchor point. You see that circle that is on the lower right corner of the pen icon. Click. Now Illustrator thinks of this as a shape. This is a path, this is a shape.